Good evening. Welcome to my weekly hangout. My name is Elian Ramos. We are Deep Goddess. And tonight we're going to be talking about the favorite topic of everyone who is in social media. Social media. But in the context that we're going to be talking about it is the context of social media to change the world. How do we use these amazing tools that we have been using for a couple of years now to actually change the things that we don't like about society, or the things that to make better the things that we do like. I know that, as you know, everyone and their mother is now in social media, including my mother. So I can actually say that. When depending on how you look at it, it can be a waste of time, but it can also be a catalyst for social change and for prompting political action from the candidates and from the politicians that govern our country. And so with us today, we have a couple of people who have been using social media and teaching social media to do precisely that, to change the world and to advocate for the different causes that they care about. In the case of my first guest, Jason Llorenz. Hi, Jason. In the case of Jason Llorenz, he is an advocate, but he's also a professor and he teaches social media studies and how to use social media to change the world precisely at Rutgers University. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
You have seen Jason before. He was here on my panel about the net neutrality before. But very nice to have you again. And my next guest is another person who we also have had her as a guest before. Is Teresita Chavez Pedrosa, who is an attorney, but she's also an advocate on issues like human trafficking, and she was on my show about human trafficking a couple of months ago. How are you, Teresita?
Fine, Elian. Thank you for having me.
So let's go right into the discussion. What we are talking about is social media for social change, social media to change the world, and that may sound a little cliche. If you excuse me, because it's been talked about over and over and over again. But let's start with a little bit of a overview of this. How can social media really help to solve social problems, like inequality, like injustice, and other problems? Can you talk a little bit about that? And any one of you can go first.
You first, Teddy.
Thank you so much. I think the short answer is little by little, but I think the way that you accomplish that is in a few different ways. For example, through social media, we see just how big a problem may be, or how many people really care about it. And that's important because, we have so many issues in society. How do we decide what we're going to address first? It's usually that which has the biggest impact. Why is social media a platform that really lets us see this? Because, it's easy for people to participate. It doesn't have the dangers that we see when people go out live, like in places like Venezuela or the Middle East, where they're really risking their lives when they're putting themselves out there. The other thing that social media does is it personalizes the issue. So why should I care? Ultimately, why should I care? It has an unlimited capacity to bring you the individual stories. It also tells us how we're connected to the stories. Oh, this person that got shot happened to be the cousin of the person that I graduated high school with. Now it has, a different dimension. And then the other thing that it does is everybody could weigh in. So you really get to appreciate different points of view. If you follow a hashtag, for example, you can really follow an issue deeply, the way you put in if you are watching the evening news, and then it doesn't go away. So it doesn't really, as opposed to traditional media, they can only cover so much, so after a while they can't continue to follow a story. In social media, if enough people care, the story stays alive until the problem really is resolved.
And look, over the summer, you saw, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge kind of drove all of us. They raised $108 million. It's over 80 times what was raised a year ago for a life stealing disease. And then we all were able to be a part of, or at least to see what was going on in a little place in Missouri that's struggling with police and struggling with representation. That to me shows the power of social media. But the future of it is really the linkage of social media with big data. We're looking, for example, at studies of how people use energy. The future of big media will be able to predict how the future of earthquakes even. I think that while a lot of us kind of get up in the morning and we see the cute cat pictures or we see something that kind of makes us laugh, the reality is the future of social media is for very, very serious things that will affect people's health, education, access, the way that we think of ourselves.
Beautiful, beautiful. And based on that, we have seen so many things going on social media over the years. You know, we saw the whole Arab Spring, and we saw, you know, we have seen all of these like national and international issues like unfold on social media. But in your opinion, what has been the bigger impact that it has had on the Latino community and the advocacy for the Latino community?
Well, I will. Go ahead, Ted.
No. I'll take second this time.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, almost 100% of Congress is on Twitter now, right? Everyone has a Facebook page, so we can't just dismiss the platform as all just that thing that we use for social. The reality is that policymakers are using Twitter, using Facebook, using the other mediums. Michelle Obama is really active on Instagram. So we can't say that if something matters to us, that it doesn't matter if we tweet about it or it doesn't matter if we post on Facebook. In reality, by driving critical mass, for example, the Obama administration has whitehouse.gov, right? The petition modality. Look, if you can get an issue in front of the White House that gets enough traction, that can actually get an answer from the White House. I think that's really important. And for Latinos, the reality is that Twitter, Instagram, Facebook has been an incredible platform for access, right? Access to communication and connection.
I'm personally
not to access to really connecting with people who can work on the issue together. Go ahead, Tere.
I am personally really impressed with the Dreamers. If you're asking about a Latino success story, I would have to say the Dreamers. And in a way, you know, it's always been the youth that have led movements. So, you know, it begs the question, has social media really changed that at all? I think it has, because youth, in order to really have the attention of the powers that be in the past, in order for that to happen, it requires some bloodshed and violence. I think the Dreamers have been able to gain access to the powers that be and the congressional offices and the White House without that. And in that sense, I think it's been a real success story. And I'm particularly impressed with the story of Erika Andiola when her mother got picked up by ICE and she was on a bus being driven to the border. I remember tweeting and retweeting because I was told to or asked to in social media to please turn the bus around. And that was a success, and the bus was turned around. So because it was successful in the effect, I would point to that as one of the major victories.
And let's remember also, it's not just us, it's not just regular people that are on Twitter or on Facebook. Every reporter that's doing meaningful work in this country is also on social media. They're trolling social media in order to find stories. So I think that it forms like a triangle, a trinity, right? There are the policy makers or members of Congress and regulatory people. There are the members of the press that when they start to see things bubble up on Twitter, they say, oh yeah, no, I can go follow that. I can get out ahead of the story. And then there's us that can speak directly to those people. That's how change. That's one of the ways that change happens.
Mm-hmm. That triangulation is what makes it so powerful, right? So knowing this thing and for us, those of us who have been there in the thick of things for so long, what do you think are the opportunities and also the pitfalls that emerge when you're trying to leverage social media to do social change? That's a very heavy question, but I think that there's so many of each that we can speak about it.
Your
The
turn.
opportunities is the platform. It's the platform. You have a mega box when you're on social media. The way that I've seen it work for me, when I've been involved with issues, is also the connectivity. Is all of a sudden you're reaching people not only in this nation but throughout the world on a particular issue, and not only does that give you the opportunity to join forces, but it's also helped me find experts. Next time I want to do a panel, next time I want to do a presentation, who do I ask to be my guest? Well, maybe it should be this person from Eastern Europe, that's doing this really cool thing, and so it's helped me in that way.
Look, the two things that have always driven change in this country are pictures and numbers. So in the 1950s, when Brown versus Board of Education ultimately overturned decades-long case law that said separate can be equal, it happened because of numbers, right? And it happened because of pictures. And the same thing with Ferguson. The things that we remember about Ferguson are not necessarily always the important stuff. It's not like how many members of the state legislators are representing our communities, but you'll remember that one picture of police dressed in riot uniform holding a local man unarmed while he's just walking down the street. Pictures make a difference, and that's the power of social media. The other thing that I think in terms of your question of where the change can happen in the future, look, if I'm in any local community, I don't think Ferguson is special, actually. I think there are thousands of Fergusons around the country, right? Communities that feel outside of the process or like they're not getting good representation. I have the ability through social media, through Twitter, through making a quick infographic, for example, to tell the story in numbers. Like, look, there were 742 arrests in my community. We're only X% of the population. I think that social media allows us to tell those stories more vividly with numbers and pictures than ever before, and that's powerful.
Mm-hmm. And you both are lawyers. Are there any, legal considerations for people who want to use social media for advocacy? What are some things that they need to keep in mind?
I remind people that at the end of the day, social media is a tool. So the legal considerations are the legal considerations that are always there. For example, if you're advocating for a particular cause, what are the limitations? What are the guidelines, the ethical considerations for that cause? If you are asking for money, well, are you registered to do so? Does your state require so? If the state does, you haven't done it, then don't ask for money on social media. Things like defamation as well. What I think, even more than the technical legalities, the legal considerations, social media is huge in the court of public opinion. And I worry a lot of times about the snapshot, which doesn't reflect the greater context.
Yes. Yes, and that, as we have seen that being misused so many times. In the case of Ferguson, for example, you see that when you want to use a picture to defame somebody, like, oh, this person was no angel, as there were some headlines around. Michael Brown, they were showing the pictures that showed him as not such a perfect angel versus the pictures of, him being a perfectly normal human being, So it's exactly the way that it works. Tere, I want to continue with you because this is the same topic that we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks when we go to Social Media Week. So can you explain a little bit about what the program is for the conference, what the conference is about, in all of the details? I want to hear it all.
Okay, so Social Media Week is a global conference. It happens across different cities throughout the world, not just the United States. It started in New York more than 5 years ago. A number of cities go in the spring, a number go in the fall. The ones that go in the spring don't go in the fall. So Miami, obviously, is one of those fall cities. There's a lot of connectivity and a lot of interconnection online. Actually, our online reach is amazing. But on the ground, it's a conference like any other conference. It just deals around social media and technology. What we try to do, we have over 75 panels, and what we try to do is, as long as we're going to be talking about social media and technology and we have so much time, let's also address real substantive issues and things that are important. So instead of making panels just about how to take that great selfie, let's talk about things like human trafficking or social media for social good. And so we picked this topic, social media for social good or for changing the world or whatever it is that you prefer. And then we decided, because so many of our panelists had an expertise in immigration, we decided to kind of make it an immigration case study. So we're going to talk about a lot of things, but then we're going to focus in on how social media has been used for advocacy in the immigration context. And then we're going to ask the question, can we do better? Are there advocacy tactics, are there ideas that we're not incorporating into our social campaigns that we can incorporate? And then maybe even have a call to action.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we've been talking about, the Fergusons of the world, the Arab Spring, and we do mention the Dreamers before. And social media has definitely been a catalyst for social change in terms of, it's being credited with toppling dictatorships and, and liberating whole countries and causing, social upheaval in other countries when people have started using it to organize. In our own turf, in the Latino turf, it's been a catalyst for a lot of movements, and you were mentioning the Dreamers before. Do you feel that social media has been an effective tool, that the way that we have used it for things like immigration, for example, has been used? Because after all these years of activism and using social media for this, we still don't have reform. So do you feel that it has been effective so far, or should we reconsider the tactics and the strategies that we've been using up to now?
I think that using social media is one thing, but using it strategically is a whole other thing. I teach young people at Rutgers, right? Millennials are 18 to 22 years old, and typically what I find is that it's like the goldfish that grow up in a fishbowl. You don't really think about the water that you're swimming in, right? So if you say go and tweet, maybe folks can go and tweet. But if you say, well, how do you get action on an issue via Twitter? That's a whole different question. And I think that just like immigration, it begs thinking about strategic communication. It begs thinking about how do I use Twitter, but also how do I connect it to my on-the-ground efforts. Advocacy, good social media advocacy, I think has to be connected to what we do offline as well.
And I agree. I think that you can have small victories relatively easily, and I mentioned Erika's case. I think for bigger challenges, again, little by little, you start making progress. And I agree that at some point, certain things require more than just Twitter activity or Instagram posting. I think it needs to be accompanied by marches and just a lot more.
Look, even in the business. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Even in the business side, right? We've seen businesses built on social media, or for example, even the young Latino. The social issues are really, really important, but I think that the thing that can transform Latino lives is economic access. And we have a major problem in terms of the lack of startup activity in our community, the lack of Latinos who are participating and going out to get venture capital. In today's world with crowdfunding, you can go out and fund a big, life-changing, community-changing idea, and if you can get traction for it on social media. And I don't know that today we can walk into any community and say, well, we want to help you start a business. Here's $5,000. Why don't you go start the business and then go figure out how to fundraise it for it online? That's capacity that we have to build, and the tools are there clearly, but I don't know that we're doing a good job yet of transmitting those skills.
Mm-hmm. And Jason, I want to continue with you because you actually teach this in real life. You work with youth at Rutgers University. You're teaching them how to use digital tools for advocacy. So I want to hear a little bit more about what it is that you're teaching the youth at Rutgers, but also I want to hear, why do you think it's so important to give youth these tools for advocacy and to teach them how to use them properly? We know in terms of them keeping a clean image online and all of that, but why do you think it's important to teach them all of these things to change the world.
Right. So I teach two courses at Rutgers. One is a course called Social Informatics, which is kind of looking at technology policy and society. The other that I'm teaching right now is called Understanding and Designing Social Media. And what we're doing is we read the academic stuff, but over the semester, or in groups, the students will actually develop their own social media application and then go out after funding or support for it. By doing that, look, what I find is that the young people that come to my classes, and even the organizations that I go and do short trainings for, I find that the lack of capacity in social media is really surprising. I think because we use it as of hand, we tweet and we Facebook and everything. We don't really think of it as serious tools. And the reality is, look, the future of college admission is going to be online. LinkedIn's business model is not just going to be connecting people who are already in the workforce. It's also going to be the future of getting college kids into college. So that whole modality of online branding, right, of personal branding in digital era is key. It's a key skill, particularly for our communities.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true, especially for the youth. Do you have anything to add to that, Tere?
I would add that it's surprising to me how many young people still don't have a good handle of social media. I mean, they may know Facebook, they may be doing Facebook, but a lot of them are not on LinkedIn. And when I talk to them about the value of social media, I do so that they see that they actually have the power to create a personal brand and more control over their future, but more importantly, for the way social media facilitates networking and maintaining connections, especially connections across the country.
Absolutely, because we now live in the influence environment, right? In the influence economy. I think Ted Rubin says this. The fact is that if you want to be an expert at something, you may be a lawyer today, and tomorrow you want to be known as an international, I don't know, something. If you do that for 3 years, you can create a brand, study it, talk about it, read about it, write about it, and produce your brand online. It's really important. I usually tell anyone who talks to me about kind of doing a career change, like say, oh, I'm a lawyer, but I want to be doing something, or I'm an interior designer and I want to be doing something else. I talk about this personal branding in the digital space because it can be your way to, you can blog and tweet and Facebook your way to your next job.
And what's beautiful, Jason, is that that's what creates the economic opportunities. And if we want to change the world, if we want to make an impact, yes, social media is fantastic, but if we also have the dollars to influence those political campaigns and to support nonprofits, then we're really talking.
Absolutely. And each other's businesses as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So you kind of started already, but I know that you've been using this very successfully. So what would be your tips for people who are watching and would love to learn how to use social media for social good, for social causes? Who wants to go first?
Tere.
I'll tell you what I've done. I read a lot. I go to conferences. Sometimes I speak, but what I really like is just to sit on different panels and listen to people that have expertise in different areas. I've been doing that for a while, and that's how I've gained my knowledge. And then, once you know a few things, then be strategic. And that includes knowing what platforms are good for what and using it accordingly.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. I think on both ends. For young people who know how to use Snapchat and Instagram really well, but maybe don't know how to start a campaign that could change their neighborhood, their block, their world, or who say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, but maybe I don't have the skills. Invest in that. So there are training courses, there are gurus, right? Like the two of you on this screen that you can reach out to that have some resources. For older people as well, I think that there are a lot of mid-career people who are thinking, well, how do I get to the next level of my career? How do I make that job change? Also, go out and find good training, reach out to gurus, and figure out how to bring that education into your organization, because I think it can be life-changing.
Beautiful. And speaking of reaching out to gurus, how can people get in touch with these two gurus that are on my panel today and that I adore because they're so knowledgeable?
So my
we
Twitter handle
realized.
is right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that we realized that we were both Cuban lawyers, but I was the real Cuban lawyer. That's my Twitter handle.
She's claiming it,
I love it.
Jason. She's claiming it. So, Tere, you want to go first? I know Jason just started talking, but let's let the lady go first.
Of
Tere,
course.
please.
Well, you can reach me at Cuban Lawyer. That's my Twitter handle. And otherwise, I'm on other platforms as Teresita, Chavez, Pedrosa, my full name. Just reach out to me on any of those. My profiles are public, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. And my
And
Twitter
Tere,
handle is right.
go
My
ahead.
Twitter handle is right here. Please tweet me, or you can send an email to Rutgers at jason.llorenz@rutgers.edu.
Jason, we're not seeing your Twitter handle. We're seeing your name in Rutgers University, but Jason's Twitter handle is Llorenz SQ,
That's right.
right?
At LLORENZESQ at Llorenzesq, or my email jason.llorenz@rutgers.edu.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I wanted to end with I want Tere to tell me a little bit where people can find out more about Social Media Week.
Okay. Well, if you follow my Twitter account, you'll find a lot of postings not only about social media, but also about individual panels. And if you Google Social Media Week Miami, that'll take you to the site where you could learn what events are taking place, including the very, very full schedule for the week.
Yes, and I believe that you can look at the website on the Hangout right now. It should be showing there.
Okay.
If it's not showing, it's socialmediaweek.com and /Miami, I believe. And so you will find all of that. I will be tweeting this in a little bit. Also, if you cannot see it from here, but I want to check out the conference, Social Media Week Miami. If you're in Miami, please come and see us. I will be in town from the 23rd to the 27th, and I'll be on a couple of panels there, and a couple of I have one keynote and 2 panels, I believe. But there's so many amazing presenters, there's so many amazing people who are going to just be hanging out there that you should know. And I appreciate you guys being here. Jason, I hope to see you in Miami too. I know that you're going to be in one of the panels as well.
I hope so.
And so, Tere, thank you so much for being here, to both of you. And I will see you soon in Miami. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you too.
Bye, Teresa.
And all of you, you're going to, bye. All of you, you're going to be able to see this Hangout again on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/Elian Ramos. So I see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.